Hi, everyone. My name is Adrian Ramos, and I am the program specialist for AARP Maryland. And I am here with one of our executive council members and all-star volunteers, Marcy Gouge here. And Marcy, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? Maybe obviously your name, but maybe some of the volunteer uh, kind of titles you have here with us.
Hi, I'm Marcy Gouge,
Mhm.
and I am part of the Executive Council for AARP Maryland. I've been on the council for I think almost 3 years,
Mhm.
and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. I am a retired elder law attorney, and I spent the last 10 years of my professional life working for AARP Foundation in Washington, D.C. So I am very familiar with the AARP volunteer effort. In fact, I volunteered for them while I was still working. I always knew that as soon as I was retired full time, I'd be a full time volunteer as much as I could be.
And thank you so much for the work you're doing and continuing to do. I know that you recently sent over to us for the volunteer newsletter. It was something to do with, I think, finding volunteer teachers. Is
Right.
that?
There is, I live here in Frederick, Maryland, and
Mm-hmm.
there is a nonprofit here called the Asian American Center of Frederick. And it is a nonprofit which helps not only Asian background people, but actually they serve people with 32 different languages.
Oh,
And
wow.
most of them are people who have come to the United States legally very recently. And
Mm-hmm.
the center provides English training, citizenship training, and a
Wow.
variety of other services. But what I want to do for the center is create some Zoom trainings where our volunteers are able to meet on a regular basis with, say, high school kids or young
Mm-hmm.
adults or even the seniors and help them with their English by doing a variety of things. They might, for instance, the volunteer might teach how to do cook a recipe, a favorite
Mm-hmm.
recipe, or might teach music skills to a group of high school kids with kind of a dual purpose of giving the kids or the attendees a skill and a knowledge that they'll need here in America, but
Mm-hmm.
also helping them with their English at the same time.
Wow. That's awesome. Um, that sounds like a great initiative. I really hope that we can get some people involved with that. That's really great. I wanted to kind of go back to something you said earlier. So you said that you were previously, before volunteering for AARP, you were a elder law attorney.
Yes.
Would you mind kind of elaborating on that, and also kind of telling us what you did like before, like what else you did before
All right.
volunteering with AARP? Yeah.
Well, actually, I practice law in Colorado. I'm a
Hmm.
Colorado native, and I moved to Maryland 1 week before 9/11.
Hmm.
And so I spent my professional career in Colorado, where I worked as a district attorney. I was the first female district attorney in my jurisdiction way back
Wow.
in the early 80s.
Hmm.
And then I had my own law practice for years where I focused on kind of twofold estate planning for seniors, but
Hmm.
more importantly, working as a guardian for seniors who were mentally or physically incapable of caring for themselves.
Hmm.
So I would manage their money or make decisions regarding their care and treatment. So I've been involved in issues surrounding elder abuse and frauds and scams and protecting vulnerable seniors for a long time.
Wow, that's great. And it probably made complete sense when you found out about AARP that you wanted to, you know, kind of get involved with us. You said that you started volunteering even while you were still working.
Right.
Um, when it,
AARP Foundation, of course, my job there was to serve as a director of AARP TaxAid. And for
Mhm.
anyone who doesn't know TaxAid, it is the largest volunteer program in the United States.
Wow.
35,000 volunteers every year
Wow.
get trained to do income tax returns and serve. They prepare over 5 million returns for low-income seniors. And my job was to train the volunteers to do the taxes. So I was the tax expert. And as a result, I went all over the country and I met thousands, literally, of those volunteers. And
Wow.
I realized how much heart and care they had for people. Their desire was to help people who, really were at the low end economically of the totem pole. And they were there to help them, give them service that otherwise they would go elsewhere and have to pay, a couple $100s for, which they couldn't afford. And during that time, I did help prepare taxes. I also did other volunteer work with hunger relief and fraud, abuse, and all sorts of topics. And I just saw the full depth and breadth of what AARP does to help vulnerable older adults.
Yeah, wow, that's great, and we're glad to have you. And so when would you say that you started with us?
I started about 15 years ago with AARP, worked for 11 years, and then I volunteered for the last 5, almost 6 years with AARP. I called Maryland State and said, "I'm here. Use me how you can."
Yeah, wow, that's great. And you've been a great help with everything that you've done with us and for us. And as an executive council member, you are a rock star. You're even conducting this call from Arkansas right now. So I think that
I'm
it's
down here taking care of a family member, so I'll be returning home tomorrow.
Wow, but thank you so much for making the time. Regardless, it just shows your commitment to AARP. I just wanted to kind of ask you a few more questions, if that's okay, just to kind of get to know you some more. So what has been your favorite AARP volunteer experience / memory that you've had with us, besides, I guess, meeting those volunteers that you just mentioned as well?
I think the thing I like the most are the social events, quite frankly. I'm single, and it's always good to meet new friends. And so for a couple years, when we were able to do in-person events, we would do the Brew Crew and the movie events, and I would always volunteer for those. And I'd go wherever the event was and sit in a lovely situation and meet people and talk. And I met some good friends that way. So it's a great way to get out and socialize in a non-stressful situation.
Agreed. And I really can't wait till we're back in person, because I met a lot of good friends there too. And I know that we're trying to do a movies event I know it's obviously going to be virtual for next month, but we're working on that. So if you're interested, Marcy, if you're interested,
Absolutely.
Joy's putting it together. So I'll have to contact you about that. And then last but not least, what would you tell someone who's interested in volunteering with AARP, but on the fence about how they can contribute, even despite I know we're kind of maybe hopefully on the ends of it, but even despite the pandemic going on?
I think the great thing about AARP, it's kind of twofold. Real quickly, I'll say one is AARP is the only volunteer opportunity I've seen since I retired where you get to decide when and how you volunteer. If you're in a period where you've got a lot of personal things going on, you just back up a little bit. You're not expected to be there every week or to go for 2 hours every Monday. You just simply can come in and out with the level of involvement that your personal life will allow you to have. So when I travel, they know I'm gone. When I come back, I say, "What do you need done?" And it works great for me. The second thing is that AARP, in my mind, is kind of the thinking person's volunteer opportunity. When you retire, you see all sorts of opportunities where you, what I call dishing up mashed potatoes. You can go and you do something that's low level, low thinking, low involvement, and you do it and you feel good. That's fine. It's good if that's what you want to do. But AARP offers opportunities for you to use your brain, skills, and your education and your interests. So that leads to what you can do in the pandemic. You can do anything that you think will help your community. When I have an idea, I talk it over with the staff and I say, gosh, I think it'd be a great idea to do a, a food drive or a special seminar on Alzheimer's or an event where we get together different nonprofits to talk about the services they have. So
Hmm.
I do all the planning. I get help from the staff as needed. They give me support in terms of materials I might need or even funding if it's appropriate. And
Hmm.
then they help me to do it. But I get to be the one to lead it and organize it and do it. And there is a great sense of satisfaction. It feels like I use my skills for the better of my community. And during the pandemic, the example of what I'm doing right now is I was worried about food insecurity for the seniors. So I contacted Meals on Wheels and they told me their biggest problem is that during the pandemic, they've had to cut down on staff. So they don't do daily deliveries. They only do deliveries every 3 to 5 days. And the
Hmm.
problem is if it's a bad weather day or the volunteer that's supposed to deliver to a certain rural area is sick or has had a pandemic scare or whatever,
Hmm.
the senior misses out on food. Well, what do
Hmm.
they do about that? So
Right.
what we're doing is we're filling what we're calling shoe boxes for seniors, and
Hmm.
it's basically a small box of shelf-ready food, peanut butter, dried fruit, nuts, other minor treats, small bags of cocoa,
Hmm.
things that they can have and keep on their shelf, and then when they can't get or don't get their regular scheduled meal, which they depend on,
Hmm.
then they can pull that shelf ready food out and have it available. We're putting
Oh.
a note of, cheer and personal comments in there.
Hmm.
And at least in my situation, I had my grandchildren decorate the boxes. Um,
Wow. That's
I
pretty
think
cool.
that's it. So it's an opportunity for me to work with my grandchildren, to
Hmm.
pass my values on to my grandchildren, and then to know that those seniors, those boxes will be opened up at some point
Hmm.
and enjoyed, and probably very possibly help them in terms of being the difference between hunger and having something to eat. So
Right.
that's something that during pandemic, next Monday when I'm home, I'm going to be going around and picking shoe boxes up from front porches.
Hmm.
So during the pandemic, these people are filling shoe boxes. I'll pick them up contactless, deliver them to Meals on Wheels contactless. Everybody wins. And
Hmm.
that's an example of what somebody can do if they have an idea,
Hmm.
make it happen.
Right, exactly that. Yeah, there's always work to be done, and I'm glad that you're still doing it, and I'm glad that our volunteers are still doing it. It's like little things like that make people feel less forgotten, less, and just a little bit more valued, especially in times of also social isolation. I think that that little bit is going to help them, like, be the difference between hunger and, surviving, but also, like that note that you're putting in there and things like that, that goes a long way. Even like I don't know, people always say it, but holding the door open for the person behind you, or like a nod to somebody as they're walking past you, like those little things mean a lot more to some people than we even realize. So I think that
I agree.
any little thing that we can do is appreciated.
Next month, our project is going to be boxes for the pets.
Wow.
So I already have a youth group from my church that's going to fill 20 boxes with
Hmm.
dog food and cat food and toys. And my favorite part was I had an older person contact me, told me that they had their beloved dog die recently, and
Oh.
they have these big bags of food left over,
Hmm.
and they have put all that into smaller bags for the pet shoe boxes. And I
Nice.
just thought, wow, that's a way to minister and help the person who's filling it as well as the person who's receiving it.
Exactly that. Yeah, and it's repurposing that food. I think that, geez, that's a really feel good story, Marcy. Yeah, that stuff like that kind of warms my heart to hear. Especially I have a pet now here, and I also we had recently lost a dog, so I know how that all goes. So it's always good to kind of see people helping out each other. So
I agree.
wow, wow, Marcy, this has been a great volunteer spotlight. Thank you so much for allowing us to highlight you this month. I wish that we could do it every month because the work you're doing, it's so important and so, like, honestly, just for lack of a better word, awesome. It's honestly, like, I love to hear about it. I love to learn more about it, and I love to promote it. I like to hear about the things that you guys are doing for the community because the community appreciates it and we appreciate it too. AARP would be nothing without our volunteers, and
I
I
agree
think
with that.
that, yeah, in a very real in a very real sense, behind every good officer, behind every sort of good act that I've heard about in recent times, there's an AARP volunteer behind it. So I really appreciate your time, Marcy, and I thank you so much for allowing us to highlight you again this week, rather this month. Um, and I hope and I know that you'll keep doing the good work that you do.
Yep.
Thank you.
Onward and upward.
Onward and
Bye bye.
upward. Bye bye. Thanks, Marcy.